to the Eschatology Podcast, brought to you by Resonix. Visit ResonixSoundSolutions.com for the best ways to free your car, motorcycle, house, or spaceship from resonance with Resonix. And many thanks to Resonix for making this podcast a reality. Today, we're sharing an interview with Brian Mitchell. Brian works for Arc Audio, holds the current title for Installer of the Year with his shop Liquid Trends, and is one of the people most dedicated to car audio competition that I know. But anyway, without any further ado, here we go. All right, we are here with Mr. Brian Mitchell. Hello, Brian.
Hello.
That was the most enthusiastic hello I've ever heard. So we are on Sunday afternoon, and Brian is awaiting his favorite part of sound quality, where he gets to use a TermLab for SPL. That's your favorite part, right?
That is my favorite part.
So speaking of SPL, how'd you get into car audio?
SPL.
So and about when was that?
Well, we didn't call it SPL back then. We called it backfires of the car in 1942. No, 1984.
1984. So what got you into car audio in 1984?
Started going to shops, and there was some local SPL competitions. It was sound quality, but it was really just SPL. It was the parking lot competitions.
So you're in the Modesto area now. Was that where you were then, or?
Yes. Yep. So there was a white Regal. And it wasn't Gary, because it was, there's a lot of white Regals at the time, but he had a Zabco system, and it was so loud you could hear it from almost a block away. And I wasn't even 16 at the time, but I had friends that were, over 16, and then I would go with them. I actually got into car audio because before then I always had the biggest boombox, and I had no rhythm. And we always had breakdancing competitions in the front yard on cardboard.
So you were the music guy.
I supplied the music. They supplied the rhythm. So when somebody else would get a bigger boombox, they would go to their house and do breakdancing at their house. So you always wanted to have it at your house. So I got to the point where there wasn't a bigger boombox, but somebody had the biggest one, the one with the alarm on it, like a Lasonic or something that had an alarm on it. I was trying to figure out another way, because I'm singularly focused on things. So when I focus on it, I have to finish the thing. I have to win. And so somebody said, well, why don't you put a power booster EQ, which was the popular thing for the day, and some phase 3 pyramid speakers, and a 8-track radio. I think it might have even been just a radio so long ago. And I built a wooden box, and I used a motorcycle battery, and I had the loudest stereo again. But this was a big honking box that I had a suitcase thing on, but I carried it around and, shellacked it and, burned the wood, and, wood class kind of project. So that got me into car audio. So when I was doing that, I needed wire. So I went to the local car stereo shop, and I told the guy, and this is early on in car audio, and he said, what are you doing? And I showed him, and he's like, that's pretty amazing. You want to come in and sweep up floors and stuff like that? So I did, and then that got me into car audio, and it just kind of progressed from there. I got out of it and got back in it. Everybody in car audio tries to get out of it and then get back in it. But I haven't been able to escape since then, even though I've tried different things. So
I guess, what was your most memorable system back then as far as what you had?
So I started out, I had 812s in Chevy Nova, hatchback 74 Chevy Nova, so the last of that body style. And then it went to a weird body style like Steve Head had. His wasn't a Nova, but that same body style. So I had 812s in that, and it was loud. It was sounded clean, because we just put a whole ton of speakers in them, as many speakers as you could. But that was what sound quality was for the day.
Right.
If you looked at the Terminator or some of the early cars that were winning sound quality competitions, they had horns in the armrest. It's not anything really related to what we're doing nowadays. So that's what I did. That's what everybody did. That all the cars did that.
As far as a profession, did you stay in car audio that whole time, or
No, I did other things, but I always had my hand in car audio, and then I got my first store when I was 19, so it wasn't very much longer, and then I was just in car audio, and then car audio. I've tried to do other things, branch out. Sold medical implants for a couple of years in Hawaii, yeah. So and had to teach doctors how to do surgeries, and yeah, you would never expect that, but that's what I did.
Yeah, that was not one of the things I was planning on you saying.
Yeah. I was in the operating room for 102 surgeries.
Wow.
You have to know that because in case you get sued, you need to know which one.
Exactly how many.
Exactly how many you've been in. And that wasn't bad. That was, but it still wasn't a passion. It was just, it was just a job that paid very well. So.
As far as cardio competition goes, did you continue doing it throughout the years? Did that evolve? Is there a moment where you feel like you left and came back, or what's your relationship been with competition over the years?
Yeah. So I started competing in 1990. So before that, I was just going to competitions. I wasn't actually competing. I was going with other people, helping out with their systems, things like that. In the early 90s, I started going, and then I bought a truck specifically to match somebody else's truck that I liked. And when I did that, back then, if you want to go to competition, you had to have a lot of money, and money ruled the competition circuit. So I was financially challenged. I bought a new truck, so it wasn't that horrible, but you're talking about a lot of money at the time. So the other guys that were around at the time were like, "Oh, you're never going to win, so I don't know why you're going." And I went out and got second place, and then it was on after that.
Well, I'm going to prove you wrong.
Right. Yeah, that's the story of my life. So I competed solid from 92 to 98. And in 98, I retired. So I went to nationals 5 years in a row. Back then, being in the top 5 was an accomplishment. So I trophied at least somewhere every single year that I went. And it was never a dominating force, even though in SPL I did really well, because I did SQ and SPL, kind of trying half-heartedly to be in the mold of Rockford's guy. So Mark Fukuda. He's not just Rockford's guy. He's Mark Fukuda. Sorry, Mark.
Details, just the Fukuda guy and the yellow blazer guy before the yellow blazer guy.
Yeah, that was definitely, my goal was that, and I was never in that level, of course. And then after that, I started putting on shows, and I really gained a lot of knowledge putting on shows. Being a judge, you get to see what other people are doing. You get to hear cars, and you go, "Oh, that's why I was missing over the years." There was a big level. I competed against Todd Matsubara and Harry, back in the day. So, but they were never worried when I showed up, like I was.
Yeah. Well, and back then there probably wasn't the level of, "Oh, come listen to my car, and here's what I'm doing, and here's what you're going up against," right?
No, actually, that is quite the opposite.
Okay.
Harry and Todd let me listen to their car many times. They were very humble, open people, even though they came across differently to some people. And I think that I just went up and asked. I was never a shy person. So I said, "Hey, do you think I can listen to your car?" And I was nice, and they let me listen to their car. But SQ, I took a turn in 1993, and that was Eric Stevens. So Eric Stevens was a Lanzar guy at the very beginning, and I was a Lanzar guy. I started out as a Lanzar guy. And not Zapco, which is weird because it's a Modesto.
Right.
But that was a different, financial step there.
Mm-hmm.
I got into Eric Stevens' Mercury Sable in 1992 or 93. Mm-hmm. And he said, "Well, this is dynamics and impact, not just bass. And, this is what you really want." And I said, "That's what I want." Mm-hmm. And so he was a mentor. I went to his house many times, him and Femi, when they first started Image Dynamics. I was Image Dynamics' first customer because, I couldn't buy anything until they went pro. And up till then, they were amateur. So until finals that year, he had to be amateur, so he couldn't sell anything to meet that criteria. Mm-hmm. So once finals was over, he sold me a set of horns that he made, and we did lots of projects together, cars at my shop and things like that. So, but he was the main focus for getting me into true sound quality.
So did you continue competing throughout that time as far as the sound quality goes, or what was your progression on that?
Sound quality and SPL.
Okay.
So all the way up till 98, I had 815s, I had 1612s, I had all kinds of different combinations of things because I always changed it out every year. So I was a Stroker guy when Strokers first came out. It was Bill Proud, Roger Bridges, and me. And the first finals, everybody else had problems, and I ended up getting an SQ trophy. And our contact at Cerro Vega, we had there was a prize money if you won a trophy at finals, and they had set it up so Roger and Bill, they knew what they wanted. They didn't even think about me, and it ended up that I won something in SQ, and I went in and said, "Hey, where's my thing?" And he said, "Oh, all right," and he took care of me. They were always very, very great guys. So Ken Koga, my buddy Ken Koga.
So were you doing like all your own installs during this whole time, doing your own work and everything, or was it? I mean, how were you front to back on everything that you were doing as far as the competition stuff goes, or were you working with others other than? I mean, obviously you get feedback and things from others, but I mean, how much of that whole process was your own?
Yep. Everything that I did, I built myself. I never had another person ever even help on an install. Mm-hmm. Just like on my cars now, I'm the main installer. Mm-hmm. The only feedback I ever got, I never took any classes other than I took a Lanzar box design class, which was very basic back for the day. Right. They gave you a box of paperwork and said, here's how to figure it out. So I did all of that, all those things myself. And I was really known for stretching a dollar. So I'd go to Home Depot and just walk through the aisles and find products that I could use and install and make it look different than what it was. I did a really nice install in the truck one year that I used drop down chrome light panels for overhead lights. Mm-hmm. And I used that as the base for the amplifier rack. And it looked super high dollar, and it was super classy, and it cost me like $18 a panel, and I spent $36 or something.
So, look what I can do.
So a lot of the guys that had known me in town, that was what I was known for, is that I could do things, on a shoestring budget and still hold its own nationally. I could go to finals and not get laughed out. So I built cars for. My first CES was in '93 for the Scosche booth. One of our friends had just passed away. He was working there at the time, and went in and they had given me a whole bunch of wire for they needed a car last minute, and I did this beautiful install that you couldn't see any wire in.
Yeah. Well, it's really nice. I just have to pull apart the car to show you.
And I did not even think about it because I was so excited about going and all the things like that. And that taught me a lesson that I never made the mistake of. The next year I went for another wire manufacturer because Coach didn't want to have anything to do with me. and then, I kind of prided myself on wired displays after that, just because of that. So I had lots of wired displays.
You learned your lesson that you have to show your work.
Correct. So now all my wires always shown everywhere. Not just that, but I did so many. I was using my truck that has the alien on the side of it, so a lot of people have seen that truck in pictures and things. But that truck was like Pompeii. So the more you dug down the older installs, I would build stuff sometimes over the old installs, or I would use portions of it, and you're like, wait a minute, that looks really cool, but that looks sort of like the other one. Well, yeah, I just built this rack on top of this one, and lots of fun stuff back in the day.
So what was your favorite build of those that you were doing back then, when you were crossing over between SPL and SQ, which was at the beginning when you started really just car audio? I mean, it was much later really that SPL and SQ kind of split ways. But what was the thing that really brought things together for you back then?
Well, the favorite install is probably the one with the drop-down ceiling lights, because it was just so classy looking with so minimal work. And then there wasn't really suede back then like you think of now, but there was velour. And I was a velour guy.
Oh, boy.
Everything was velour. A lot of people did suede, or not suede, but tweed.
Right.
But I was the anti-tweed guy, and I did velour, and I had rolls of velour, different color velour. I did a lot of that. And then I went to an upholstery shop, and one of the other reasons why it was one of my favorite ones is I went to an upholstery shop and I said, I need a seam put right here on this curved panel. And the upholstery shop said, no, can't do it. And because I said, I need a seam, but I don't want to see it. And he said, that's impossible. You can't. And so I went back and I did it myself with a razor blade and just made the seams, line up perfect. Then I went back to the upholstery shop and said, see it, it's doable. And he's like, I don't know how you did that.
So yeah, just tell me what not to do again, and I'll show you how to do it.
Again, story of my life is
you have yourself Liquid Trends now, which I assume started somewhere. Like, how did that progress?
So that was, I was a rep. So I closed my shop down in 99. The economy took a turn, especially in California. And I closed down the shop and became a rep and traveled around there. And one of my customers in like 2004 was the store. And they brought me in to do a business plan and some other stuff, and then just progressed. And I did some other stuff for other people, and ended up that there I am. That was how I got there, and that was 2004, 2005ish.
Okay. So at that point, then, like in that mid 2000s area, were you just mainly focused on the business were you mainly doing, what kind of work were you doing at that point as far as that goes? Was it installs, fabrication? Was it car audio or not car audio? Like what was your focus at that point?
So I built cars the whole time. I did a lot of show cars, so SEMA, CES, things like that. And I completely missed out on the DSP revolution. I was like everybody else. I don't need DSP. I know what I'm doing. I can do it with analog. And so I totally missed out, but I was doing that. And then Liquid Trends was doing about 1,800 boats a year. So it was doing marine audio. And so I was focused on the business and then going out on my boat on the weekends and all the things that go along with that. And so, I was happy with doing whatever I was doing. There wasn't really anything I thought I was doing wrong, and didn't, the scene was for car audio I was still building cars. So I thought I was still in the scene, but I wasn't. So I wasn't going to competitions or anything else.
You were doing what a lot of people do, I guess. Just you were comfortable in your zone. The people around you were comfortable in their zone, and you weren't getting out to see what was actually happening as things were progressing on the electronics technology side of things.
That's correct. Yeah. I just, like I said, just totally missed out on that. And there was some of the early processors were not all they were cracked up to be. So, there's that. But yeah, no, I totally, like I said, totally missed that.
What hooked you back in at that point? Obviously you're here now. So what got you hooked back in?
I had some things happen, and I just decided I should go back in and see what I could do and see if I could have people remember me. I want to be in that group of people that get remembered.
Like what time frame was that?
2011, finals 2011.
You say that's when your first time back was finals 2011?
No, that was when I decided I was going to build another car and go into competitions, finals 2011. Okay. And then I did. I went out and bought a car the next weekend and started building a car, and realized I didn't know what I didn't know. And that took a little while. It took a full year to get flushed out of not knowing what I don't know. And I'm a quick learner because I don't like to lose. So, you lose a few times, you start figuring out that you need to know something else.
What brought on that, I guess, learning curve? Was it just was it during the building process? Was it getting it built and then coming out and giving it a shot? Or was it like all of it? Like what really kind of pushed you to make change, I guess, at that point?
It was losing. It was losing. That's really I had a good fundamentals. So fundamentally, I knew all the things that I needed to know. But with DSP, that changed significantly what you should do and shouldn't do, what you could do and what you couldn't do. And anybody who's an old school competitor who has been out of it for so long, that comes back into it and doesn't think that DSP is where it's at, is like racers who don't think that EFI or some kind of fuel injection is the way to go. I've been using a Holley double pumper for 20 years and I got plenty of power, and then they get wet by a 4-cylinder Toyota or something
with a laptop.
Yeah.
So I mean, the first time I really knew of you, I guess, was 2012, maybe 2012 finals, West Coast finals, and then East Coast finals. when Iasca had split that up both sides. So as long as I've known you, I've seen you, I guess, synonymous with ARC, because you were there, and obviously you're in Modesto. ARC is there. When did that relationship start?
When ARC opened. So I had a relationship with ARC going back. I was their first rep. So Northern California, they were just starting out, and they needed a rep in California. So the rep firm that I worked with, which was 3 guys, we brought that on, and we were their rep for, I don't know, 6 or 8 months. Then they brought in other reps, and there was lots of change around that time. So yeah, my relationship goes all the way back to the beginning, and I knew Demetrius for many years, and everybody else that was around through Zapco and the competition circuit and being in town, and we all knew each other.
So you all along seem to have been the go big and go home type of person, I guess. Because I mean, like, you came back just saying, like, you were kind of learning, coming back into it and that. But then again, when I met you 2012 finals, you're coming in as an expert. So, I mean, it was kind of like going straight to the top, because I was kind of coming back as well, but I was like suffering down in Pro-Am, and you came back right back in expert. So, I mean, what was your decision making there?
Again, there was some things that happened, and that was the driving force. But yes, I'm not scared of anything, and if I was, the way I would handle being scared of something is go at it directly. So the choice of going into expert was definitely something that a lot of people questioned, and I don't think I disappointed, really. I think I held my own all the way through. I think I got second place at finals on the first year back, and in Mecca finals I actually got the highest SQ score at Mecca finals that year. So other than having a noise problem, I would have got the Culberson Cup the first year back. So
that's huge. So then 2012, 2013, I feel like you got a whole lot of miles in. Like, you were hitting every show that was out there, and I think you had I don't remember the exacts, but the amount of points that you had, especially in Mecca at the time, I think it was like 800 plus or so. I mean, what was the reasoning behind that?
So since I've come back, I set goals for myself. So it's really, I'm kind of checking boxes at this point. So I set a goal for, I set my sights on something, and that's a goal. So in 2013, after I did so well at finals, I said, if I'm really this good, then I should be able to go to anybody who has a good score for the last 2 years to their backyard and win at their show. And so I went every single part of the country for 2 years to everybody's backyard, and with their judges and their bias, whatever it is, and won all but one. And that was a goal. But in doing that, I also said I want to be the national points champion, because that used to be a kind of a cool thing to win. And I did that in Iasca and Mecca 2 years in a row, both organizations.
Sounds like a easy and cheap accomplishment.
Yeah, and I was footing the bill for the whole thing, so I spent $35,000 or $40,000 per year on going to shows. Wow. I slept in my car. I did just everything you can imagine. I still had to work. I was driving back and forth and sleeping in the car at truck stops and all of that. But I accomplished the goal. And the first year I got it was like double the points. I don't think anybody's gotten close on points for national points champion for Iasca at all. I think I'd double the next highest one, as far as I've gone back and could find out. And then Mecca, there's some SPL guys that got more, but it was real close to being the most points ever. But it was really, it's always about the year, because it depends on how many shows there are, where they are, right. So that's being the most is relative to that.
So I mean, obviously, I would say, compared to some, I think your competitive drive is probably much higher than many. And so, but was there a learning curve that you were able to gain information during that process of hitting all those shows and hitting the regions and everything else? Do you think that tangibly led to your ongoing success from there?
Oh, for sure. There's that. There's I'm a believer that there's not a lot of new things in the world of car audio. There's regurgitating older things of other people that have been there. One of the things that was, did much better for me install. I didn't do near as well as I did in sound quality the first year, but I changed that. Was I looked at what was the coolest thing out, and I tell the story a lot. A lot of people like my install book, but my install book was based off of Scott Buwalda's install book that I acquired, and I've always given him credit for it because the basic layout is the same. Now all the information's different,
Right.
and I've changed some things here and there, but I love to give him credit because I don't use things from people who are not the best. And even if I put that spin on it, there's no way that I can see to make something better than that. So that was something that happened in 2013 that made my installs for that year better. It was also the year that I changed the car over to the Zombie Killer car.
Yeah, I was about to bring that up because I was at West Coast Finals, and the car looks just like it always did. And the next finals was, I think, in Huntsville, right? Yeah, it was the Huntsville finals. So, I'm just there in California 1 week. Next week, and in that time period, you're also having to drive the car, had 20 plus 100, however, 2,000 plus miles from one to the other. And between the two, the car had, you show up in Huntsville, and it's a completely different car with guns on it and zombie heads and everything. Like, I guess maybe I never actually asked, but what was the reason behind all that? Like, it was obviously, it caught a lot of attention. I mean, it was in magazines, it was on everywhere on Facebook and everything else. But like, I mean, how did you? I guess I'm not an imaginative enough person to even come up with that. So how'd that come about? How'd you come up with that?
So what was funny is I told everybody all year long. Mm-hmm. So I came up with the idea at the very beginning of the season, and I said I started collecting parts to do this with. Mm-hmm. So I had the guns are made out of a whole bunch of different parts. And I bought another hood, and I bought another trunk lid, and I bought a wing, and I bought these other pieces for Halloween decorations. And some of them were cheesy. The whole thing together as a platform was cool, sort of. But the pieces themselves were kind of cheesy. But I decided to do that early on, and the goal was to go to West Coast Finals and be one way, and then go to the other finals and be completely different. Even the install in that car was completely different from one finals to the other. Even though it looked very similar, it was completely different. So I built all of this stuff before finals and had it all sitting there so I could pull right in, because the finals was up in Washington, so I had a day drive to get back.
That's right.
So there was that. And it was actually, I think it was a week and a half. So I had a week to do all this stuff. So I installed everything else. I had the car plasti dip. I had the car airbrushed. I had all these people set up to do all of these things before. And the reason behind it was because at 2012 finals, they came in and asked me to move my rental car.
Oh, dude, that had to hurt.
We're bringing cars in. Can you move your rental car? And I was like, that's my show car. And that was it was even worse than that. There's another part of that. So at SEMA that year, because I just did so well, we went to SEMA, and it was the only Chevy Cruze outside in the ARC audio booth. Mm-hmm. And the SEMA officials came up and they go, hey, SEMA is sponsoring Chevy is sponsoring the Cruze. It's the Chevy Cruze mm-hmm. that year. And we don't have a Chevy Cruze. We can't get one out of the building. Is there any way that you'd be willing to bring your car over for the beginning of the parade? And
wow.
I'm like, of course I will. I don't know. Yeah. Well, how can, yeah, done. And so I bring it over there, and the editor for Hot Rod Magazine's standing next to it. And I'm just standing there, and they're doing this parade beginning, and everybody's talking. And the guy at Car Audio, or at not Car Audio Magazine, but Hot Rod Magazine, leans on the car. And in a place that probably shouldn't be leaned on, because those cars are tin cans. and I'm looking at them, and I'm like, what am I going to do? So I finally, I'm not a shy person. So I went up and I said, hey, I know this isn't your type of show car, but you probably wouldn't do this to somebody's show car. Mm-hmm. Could you not lean?
Mine.
Yeah, it's not mine, and I still owe a lot of money on it, And he goes, oh yeah, you're right. I'm sorry, I apologize. And from then I said, I wanted to make sure that whatever I was showing is a little showier than what it was stock.
Mm-hmm.
So then I did this whole zombie killer thing, and that really got out of hand. And it was funny because I showed up and
at the time you were, I mean, well, I guess you have for most of the time of that car, but you were driving the car everywhere, right? Like you weren't trailering it.
yes, up till that point.
Okay.
So I had a trailer because I had a truck that got stolen.
That's right.
2012.
Yeah, in Indy.
Yeah, in Indy. So I had the trailer. The trailer was recovered, but the truck wasn't. So I had just sold one truck and I got another truck. And so I didn't trailer it. I drove it to the first show on the West Coast. And then at the other show, I come up with a trailer and I walk up and there's a whole group of guys outside and really nice guys, but they're all talking about all the greats in car audio. And they're naming off. And they said, really all the greats are from Texas and Oklahoma. And they're naming off all the greats who are really well known and everything else. And they all said, "Oh, hey, Brian." And that was it. Okay. So that was it.
Hi.
Hi. And again, I'm motivated by those kind of things.
Right.
So I said, yeah, great. And then I pulled the car out and everybody's just like, what in the hell? You can't do that. You have to bring the same car.
It is the same
And I said, it is the same car. And people were mad because they thought I had brought a different car, that I built a different car.
Right.
And I said, no, this is the same exact car. And that was my first Triple Crown win. If you want to remember Triple Crowns, because you won the Triple Crown the year before.
Don't know what you're talking about.
A former Triple Crown winner, yourself. You remember that.
That was a long, hard walk bringing that Triple Crown back for you. And I didn't even get it a full year. I got it like March and you got October. Like I got the shortest Triple Crown win ever.
You did. That was so screwed up too. But that year there was just everything I had the book, the first book that I made, which was a hardbound book, which I'm known for now. The pictures, all the Easter eggs, the guns rotated. It just everything about that car was done. And people don't even remember it now. People go, "Oh, you had another car?" And they only remember the Cadillac. And I go,
that has to hurt.
No, really, it doesn't. Because Mick was talking online, Mick Wallace, and he's like, the Cadillac's good, but I really thought the Cruze was a better car. And people are like, "There's no way the Cadillac's so good." And I go, "No, the Cruze did things that the Cadillac can't do. The Cadillac does things that the Cruze couldn't do as well." But I remember when I retired that car and sold it to ARC, that people were like, "That there's no way you're going to ever get a car that's as good as that one." And now they don't even remember the car.
And then you had to prove them wrong because
Well, there was a Volt in there for about a year
That's right.
that didn't do bad, but it had so much more work than any other car that I built up till this new one that I'm coming out with. That car had so much work into it, and I only competed with it for the 1 year and then just used it as a daily driver.
In that time from like 2012 till now, because that's obviously your most mature time in what is considered today's car audio scene that most people know you for today. What was your most, I guess, meaningful or memorable accomplishment during this time over the past, I guess, 10, 11 years?
Wow. I've had a lot of accomplishments that I've, goals that I've achieved. There's the winning all the Triple Crowns, 5 Triple Crowns. And then Installer of the Year, obviously, was probably the most prestigious one, but that's industry related. So I don't know. It's, I think that for me, my proudest thing is that when I go to shows, people know who I am and they respect me. They know that they can come up and I help everybody out. And that's a huge deal for me because I think that has changed from year to year for the competition scene, especially from the early years. There was no helping anybody out. Everybody talks about that was the good old days. No, somebody broke down, you clapped, oh, good. I don't have to compete against him anymore. I've helped out guys who ended up winning against me at that same show and in my category. I think that's my proudest achievement over the years is being able to do that, making sure that other guys have someone who they can trust to go and ask for help and that I'm there to be able to do it for most people. Because, a lot of people know me from the first 2 days of the show at most shows that I'm helping everybody else out.
Right.
I don't even tune my car. I'm not listening to my car. I'm not doing anything. I'm just running around making sure all the other guys are taken care of, whether they're on my team or not.
How do you think you've grown most as a person over the past 10 years doing all this? How do you think it's affected you?
It's made me fatter.
I mean, we were all in that same boat, but beyond that.
I used to be nice and skinny, and now, it's like a little extra around the middle. Oh no, I've calmed down some. I'm nowhere near as passionate about things except for SPL. No, I don't know. I mean, I'm not sure that I don't really feel like I've changed. The rest of the world has.
Understood.
I've always been the same. But no, I don't. I don't even know how to think about that, because there's for me it's just been one long ride, which has been a good ride. There's been ups and downs here and there, but I've been fortunate to do good. And what's even nicer to me is that even in years where I haven't been the winner, I've still felt like a winner, because you go back 3 years and you say who won, and people almost always go, "Oh, Brian won." Mm-hmm. And you go, "No, I didn't win that one. Right. No, I didn't win that one either. No, I didn't win that one. Really? Oh,
What do you think has been the biggest challenge or hurdle over that time for you, whether it be a show or whatever? Like what has been a memorably big thing that you've had to overcome?
Health issues, which I think, as we get older, health issues start affecting us more and more. And, I have health issues. I think, there's a few guys in the industry that have been around for a while that have health issues. And that is the biggest hurdle, not being able to do some things. Like I can't drive for 17 hours straight. I can only drive for 15 hours now. So,
oh no.
Yeah. But it used to be I could drive for 24.
Right.
I remember coming back from Dallas, I drove straight through to California without stopping. So getting older, and I've got the dogs now, so they keep me occupied.
What's your favorite part of competition now?
I still think that giving demos is my favorite part of competition. Everybody thinks it's winning the awards, and I'm not saying that I don't like that. But I think my favorite part is I love giving demos. I don't care. I build my stuff to listen to. My stereos don't break. If they do, it's because I broke them for some stupid reason, like not plugging them in or changing the presets. But generally, I build stuff to enjoy. And over the years, I've given many, many, many thousands of demos, and I'm probably over 20,000 demos. Because, at some of the knowledge fests, I might give out 200 or 300 a day.
Right.
So
pick your time period that you want to go back to. But I mean, how do you think competition has changed for the better or worse over the years, especially recently, over maybe the past decade, since you've really been doing it in what we consider current?
So I think the quality of the competitors, as far as the sound quality, there was a very big jump between a good competitor and a great competitor. There was a large gap there when I first started, and first started back. And now there's very few bad cars, especially at the national level, but even on the local level. Sometimes the local level cars are better than the national level cars. So we've got some cool people. Richard and Linda Papason in Northern California have done a great job of bringing the industry together, the car audio families, and they do that well. When you're doing SQology, when you did it, you did that same thing. So all the things like that are better. Now we're getting to another lull. I think there's the economy's getting worse, so people are thinking about spending their money more now, and that means that things are different. So when things are more expensive, shows are more expensive, we get less turnout. I don't like less turnout. I like more turnout, and I think that that's an unfortunate thing that's going on right now, is that any kind of turmoil makes people stay at home.
Putting that aside and more assuming that the trajectory of things with the people that are here, like here at finals or bigger events like SVR or Aggieland or those kinds of national, regional, I would say nowadays national events. How do you think we as the industry, the collective of competitors or people putting on the events or judges and everything, how can we make the events better for the people who are there and maybe more inviting for those who aren't?
There's a few different ways. We need more judges. Competitors as judges don't work very well, in my opinion. Even though I know they're doing their best job, they're pulled kind of sideways if they're competing at the same in the same show that they're judging on. It'd be great for some of if there are old school competitors who think that they were the greatest thing in the world, to come out and judge and maybe sit in some cars and really go through the judges training again. That doesn't always work. Sometimes that means that you get some really wacky scores, and that's fine. After they judge for a while, I think that'll even out, but we need a bigger judging pool. And I think that the camaraderie is so much better now, and it's so good that's a plus, and that can go forward. And if you can get some of the older school people to come out, or new people, it doesn't need to be older people. It could be 18-year-old kids, 16-year-old kids. My son was a judge and did really well. But we need more of that, to make things better. And then, cost is associated with that. So if we had more lower price shows in some places, I think that would drive some more demand for the bigger shows. Because once you get hooked on it, just like anything else, then you're more likely to go to the bigger shows and spend more money. But you gotta get some of the local ones being more cost effective.
Yeah, and having more consistency and
consistency is huge. Yeah, for sure.
You're unique in the fact that you are so involved at the competitor level, but then also at the team manufacturer level, working with ARC and the different team members there and getting their feedback and everything else, and then at a dealer level, it seems like there's still a big disconnect between the industry and competition. Do you think there's a good way to bring that together? Do you think there's a reason to bring that together? Is that a good thing? Is it not? Do we leave it two separate things and just try to, what's your feedback from, I guess, both sides there on kind of, a lot of people constantly say we need to tie together the industry and competition, especially those in competition. I don't hear that from the industry, but I hear that from competition. But being in the industry, and it's very difficult the way things are now anyway, in my opinion, to get return on investment as an industry member from competition, unless you're doing it like what you're doing, going out and being able to share that and everything else. But do you think for those in the industry who aren't maybe as passionate about competition as we are, is there a way to bridge that gap, or do we leave it separate?
So I'm unique because I work for a manufacturer, I have a store, and I'm a competitor.
Right.
So I have all three of those. So it's really weird that's where it's at. But I believe that more manufacturers need to get involved, because if they do, then that drives some desire for different products. DSPs in general, which we need now, were all developed for the competition scene. That's why they were there. They weren't developed for anything else other than that. And then now it fills a need that wasn't there at the time. Nobody needed to do OEM integration in 2008 when the Bit One or those ones came out, but they did need to do EQ, so it had dual purpose. Manufacturers have to develop that ROI as well. So we get pretty good ROI from what I do out in the field. So whether it's being in touch with what other products are doing, being in touch with what your products are really doing in the world, makes a difference. And then brand name recognition. So it starts out with the hardcore enthusiast, which is what we have in the competition world, is hardcore enthusiasts. And everybody looks at enthusiasts and go, that's not where the market is. And I believe that, you shouldn't make all products just for this enthusiast market. If we targeted just what this market needed, I'd have an 8-inch mid bass that was a cool mid bass I'd sell very few of, but it would meet the enthusiast market. Having some crossover things that work for enthusiast and the general market is important, but you get some feel for that. But the manufacturers have to develop that, so they have to be involved. If they just throw money at it and say, here's $100 and put our name on something, they're not going to get anything out of that. They have to show up If they spend $500 to get a booth at finals, but they actually are there to talk to people, then there's lots of pictures that are taken here, and that starts circulating in a larger area for more people outside of the small demographic that's here, the enthusiast demographic. So there's ways to make money and make it work. And as that happens and more manufacturers are involved, that grows. And then people look for that. And, pictures on the internet are not worth a whole lot, but they do have some value. So, the experience when somebody says, here, this is what I recommend, this is, that's got a lot more value.
I agree completely on that. From this point on, obviously, you've mentioned being goal-driven several times in this, and that's what's got you, kind of where you are. What's your current goals with this?
So hopefully the Cadillac will be just, if I need the car for something and I won't be competing with it a whole lot, that'll probably get sold to somebody like all the rest of the cars I've had. But I'm building the new car, which is more of a demonstration platform that will, I compete with everything just because I have it and it lets me go out and be a part of the stuff. I'm competing with my pull truck and it's doing pretty well. That's where I'm at. The new car's got a whole bunch of I build cars because I have all these thoughts in my head that I need to, of things I want to build and I want to do them. So either I build them or I build them for a customer and then I can get that, off the thing. And usually I build them for myself because they're so outrageous that the time that it takes is not cost effective to do for a regular customer.
So when are we going to see this new car?
Hopefully this year. I mean, I have to do it if I want to compete with it, so I have to finish it this year. And it really only has a couple of months left to finish it, work-wise. It's just finding the couple of months when I'm out doing as many things. I still have a trip to Mexico this year to judge down there. And yep.
All right. Well, thank you very much, and we'll chat soon.
All right. Thank you very much.
How about the ones we especially like?
Which ones?
The ones with the cars that go.
I hear you. Hit it.